The feeling around Celtic right now is raw, and there is no other way to describe it. Not long after the final whistle, the frustration still sits heavy, the kind that does not fade once you step away from the ground or turn off the television. It is the sort of exhaustion that comes from watching the same problems repeat themselves week after week, where hope feels drained rather than renewed. Supporters are not angry for the sake of it. They are worn down, fed up with performances that offer little joy and even less belief. Watching this Celtic side has become a chore for many, and that is a painful thing to admit for a support that lives and breathes the club. There is a growing disconnect between the fans and the players, and it has reached a point where sympathy is running thin. These are not bad people. Nobody is questioning their character as individuals, but as a collective on the pitch, something has clearly broken. The effort feels disjointed, the body language negative, and the connection with the crowd almost non-existent. For some supporters, there are very few players they feel emotionally attached to right now, with the captain often mentioned as one of the last figures still commanding respect due to what he has given to the club over the years. Beyond that, there is an overwhelming sense of indifference, a feeling that major changes would not be resisted if they came. That emotional distance is reflected clearly inside the stadium. The atmosphere, once a defining strength of Celtic Park and Hampton, has been flat and lifeless. Games that should spark excitement instead feel subdued, almost joyless, even in moments where the team manages to pull itself back into a match. The surge of belief never really arrives. There is noise, but not conviction. There are songs, but not unity. The experience of going to watch Celtic, something that should be special regardless of results, has become draining rather than uplifting. This season was meant to feel different. A new managerial chapter, big fixtures on the calendar, European nights under the lights, and a cup final that should have ignited passion across the support. Instead, it has unraveled quickly. From the moment setbacks began, the mood shifted and never recovered. Once the opposition scored in those key matches, belief drained away instantly, and that sense of inevitability crept in. Even when Celtic found a way back into games, there was little faith that they would push on and take control. What makes it worse is that this negativity does not stem solely from what happens on the pitch. It feels like a culmination of decisions, communication failures, and an ongoing disconnect between those running the club and the supporters. Fans feel talked down to rather than listened to. They feel dismissed rather than understood. When performances are poor, supporters look for accountability, honesty, and clarity. Yet what they often hear instead are explanations that feel hollow and out of touch with what they are seeing unfold in front of their eyes. The sight of supporters leaving early has become normal, and while it is uncomfortable to watch, it is hard to blame them. When belief is gone, staying feels pointless. This sense of helplessness is perhaps the most damaging aspect of all. It is not just anger anymore, it is apathy, and apathy is far more dangerous for a football club. When a cup final fails to stir excitement, when sections of the stadium sit half empty before the end, it signals something deeply wrong. At the heart of it all lies the question of responsibility. Who takes ownership of where Celtic are right now? It feels like the club is drifting, sleepwalking through a crisis rather than confronting it head on. There have been multiple moments this season where action, communication, or leadership could have steadied the ship, yet those moments passed without consequence. Instead of acknowledging mistakes, there is a sense of deflection and distance, which only fuels frustration further. The appointment of the new manager was initially met with cautious optimism. Many supporters were prepared to give him time, understanding that change does not happen overnight. However, the manner in which results have collapsed so quickly has raised serious concerns. Losing 3 games in such a short space of time, including a final, has amplified every doubt. Comparisons with previous managers are inevitable, and while hindsight is always clearer, it is difficult to ignore the feeling that these matches would not all have ended the same way under different leadership. More worrying than tactics is the visible lack of buy-in from the players. Watching the team, it is hard to identify clear patterns, confidence, or unity. Press conferences and post-match reactions have done little to reassure supporters, with responses often sounding rehearsed rather than passionate. There is a sense that players are going through the motions rather than fighting for the man in charge, and once that belief is gone inside the dressing room, it is incredibly hard to restore. Senior players appear frustrated, confused, and at times disconnected from what is being asked of them. That is a huge red flag. When leaders do not look convinced, the rest of the squad follows. The problem then becomes deeper than formations or systems. It becomes about trust, belief, and identity, all of which currently feel fragile at best. The manager's ideas may work elsewhere, but there is a growing feeling that this squad is not capable of executing them, and that flexibility has been lacking. Nobody escapes blame in this situation. The board, the recruitment, the players, and the management all carry responsibility. The squad itself looks poorly balanced and short of quality in key areas, something that has been evident for far longer than just the past few weeks. Yet instead of addressing these issues decisively, the club seems stuck in a cycle of denial and delay. Supporters are left watching a team that does not look like it believes in what it is doing, and that is the most damning criticism of all. There is still an understanding among many fans that sacking a manager after such a short spell sets a dangerous precedent. Stability matters, and constant upheaval rarely leads to long-term success. At the same time, there is a growing fear that prolonging the current situation only deepens the damage. If the players have already switched off, time alone will not fix that. Improvement requires more than patience. It requires belief, effort, and accountability, all of which currently appear in short supply. Looking ahead to the next fixtures, optimism is hard to find. Confidence is so low that even winnable matches feel out of reach. There is a sense that the team is sliding, not progressing, and that momentum is heading firmly in the wrong direction. Until something fundamentally changes, whether in attitude, leadership, or direction, it is difficult to see how this Celtic side can rediscover the hunger, intensity, and pride that once defined it. As the weeks have unfolded, the sense of frustration has only intensified. Celtic supporters are left asking themselves why the club, which should be full of promise and energy at this stage of the season, instead feels like it is crumbling from within. The optimism that surrounded a new managerial appointment has quickly turned into skepticism as the results and performances have failed to meet even modest expectations. It is not just the losses themselves that sting, but the manner in which they occur, disjointed, lacking intensity, and devoid of the kind of cohesion that fans hope to see from their team. Every match now seems to reinforce a narrative of decline, a spiral that appears increasingly difficult to arrest. Fans who have stood by Celtic through thick and thin are finding themselves emotionally taxed. Supporting the club has historically been about pride, identity, and a shared sense of purpose. Yet, at the moment, those qualities feel diminished. The disconnect between the players and supporters is palpable, and even the presence of committed fans in the stands cannot mask the underlying malaise. There's a vacuum of leadership on the pitch. Players are not inspiring one another, and moments that should excite the crowd instead fall flat. What was meant to be a celebration of football culture is now overshadowed by uncertainty and disappointment. Even the most loyal supporters find themselves questioning the direction of the club, wondering how a side with such history and potential has arrived at this point. The problem extends beyond results and into the very fabric of the club. Decisions made off the pitch appear to have contributed as much to the current malaise as anything on it. Recruitment missteps, poor communication, and a lack of accountability from the board have created an environment where trust is eroded. Fans no longer feel that the leadership has a clear plan or that the club is moving forward with purpose. This perceived lack of competence breeds frustration, and that frustration becomes cumulative, affecting the way supporters experience games, whether at home or on the road. A stadium that should be alive with song and passion instead feels muted. The collective voice of the fans unable to overcome the broader sense of disillusionment. The managerial position itself has become a focal point for much of this criticism, though it is clear that the challenges extend far beyond one individual. The new manager, while talented in theory, is dealing with a squad that does not appear motivated or cohesive. There is a lack of buy-in from the players, and without that, even the most sophisticated tactical plan becomes irrelevant. Football is as much about psychology as it is about formation, and when players do not believe in the plan or the person guiding them, the results suffer. Celtic supporters are witnessing a team that seems listless and unengaged, with energy levels that fail to match the intensity of their opponents. Even when moments of quality emerge, they are fleeting and insufficient to alter the overall trajectory. Adding to the concern is the response, or lack thereof, from senior players. Leadership on the pitch is crucial, particularly when a team is struggling, yet evidence suggests that key figures are not fully aligned with the managerial direction. The captain, despite his experience and dedication, cannot carry the entire squad alone, and without the collective effort, the team appears fractured. Post-match interviews often reinforce this perception. Players offer curt, uninspiring responses, leaving supporters with the impression that the squad is not united. The lack of conviction is stark, and it feeds into the growing sense of apathy among the fan base. A disconnect between leadership and squad can be fatal in football, and supporters are starting to feel the effects firsthand. The pattern of results, poor performances, and declining morale is not confined to domestic matches. European nights, once a highlight of the season, now carry the same sense of tension and apprehension. Nights that should be full of atmosphere, excitement, and pride instead feel burdened with doubt. The hope that Celtic could perform on the continental stage has faded as inconsistency and errors have compounded. Each setback seems to reinforce the narrative that this team, as it currently stands, is not capable of rising to the occasion. The supporters' patience, which has long been a hallmark of the Celtic faithful, is wearing thin under the weight of repeated disappointment. In addition to the tactical and motivational issues, there is the psychological weight on both players and fans. Watching Celtic in its current form feels like a draining exercise where joy is replaced with anxiety and anticipation is replaced by resignation. Even minor errors become magnified, and every defeat chips away at the belief that recovery is possible. For supporters, this is emotionally exhausting. For players, it can breed fear, hesitation, and underperformance. The cycle is difficult to break, particularly without strong leadership and a clear vision. The mental state of the squad is as important as technical ability, and right now it appears fragile. Supporters are also increasingly aware that changes will not come quickly or easily. The January transfer window offers some hope, but it is not a guaranteed solution. Bringing in new players may address some deficiencies, but it will not instantly resolve deep-seated issues with squad morale, cohesion, and leadership. The existing squad has shown patterns of disengagement and underperformance, and unless these are addressed directly, incremental changes will have limited impact. Fans are left questioning not only the short-term tactics, but the long-term strategy of the club, as well as whether the board and management are equipped to guide Celtic back to stability. The cup final, which should have been a source of pride and excitement, became a stark symbol of this malaise. A disappointing early goal for the opposition, followed by a flat response from the team and supporters, illustrated just how far morale has dropped. Attempts to rally, to inspire a comeback, were met with indifference and fatigue. For supporters, the lack of momentum, both on the pitch and in the stands, highlighted the broader problems facing the club. A fixture that should have been memorable for positive reasons instead became another episode in a season filled with frustration, unfulfilled expectations, and mounting questions about leadership and direction. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. A low rumble started moving through the East End and along the length of the Clyde, the kind of whisper that grows legs of its own. Phones lit up, pub corners leaned closer, and suddenly the same name was on every set of lips in green and white. YUSUF YAZICI, nothing official, nothing signed in ink for the public eye yet. But the sense around Celtic Park is that something big is stirring, a sort of move that shifts the mood of a support before a ball is even kicked. Sources close to the club talk of quiet meetings, late calls, and a confidence that suggests this is more than idle chatter. Yazici's profile fits the story fans have been craving: technical, inventive, a player who can unlock a packed defense with a single touch or a shot from nowhere. The idea of him pulling strings in Glasgow has sparked a buzz that feels different from the usual transfer window noise. This is being spoken about as a statement, not a gamble. Inside the corridors of power, there's a belief that Celtic want to flex muscle to remind rivals that ambition still runs deep in the club's veins. YUSUF is seen as a name that carries weight beyond Scotland, a footballer who arrives with reputation and edge. Word is that the dressing room has already caught wind of it, and the reaction has been one of raised eyebrows and quiet excitement. Out on the terraces, supporters trade imagined lineups and dream scenarios. Some speak of European nights, others of domestic dominance, sharpened by a new creative spark. Even the doubters admit there's a thrill in the air. Until confirmation lands, it remains a rumor, a story told and retold with growing confidence. But in Glasgow, it feels like one of those rumors that doesn't fade away. It gathers pace, gathers belief, and before long becomes part of Celtic's next chapter. Hello fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, Share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.